Hi, I'm Matt O'Leary, and in today's video, we'll be talking about the New York Jets and their free agency plan. Before I get started, I just want to mention that you can follow me on social media at Matt O'Leary NY on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So now that we got that out of the way, let's get right into the video and talk about NFL free agency, which kicks off this upcoming Wednesday. But on Monday and Tuesday, that's when things start to get really going. The rumors start to come out, and that's why I wanted to do a little free agency preview of what you can expect for the New York Jets going forward. According to Over the Cap, the New York Jets have the second most cap space in the league with $92 million. And with that $92 million, they should be very active in free agency, looking to improve the team. So with that, we'll start with the offense and then work our way over to the defense in position of need. So we will start with the running back position, because that is a very big one. You expect that Bilal Powell won't be back, and there's a chance that the Jets end up cutting Isaiah Crowell, depending on what happens in free agency. And there are two big names on the market that the Jets should be interested. The first is Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell took the year off, but in 2017, he had over 12,000 rushing yards and over 6,000 receiving yards for a total of 11 touchdowns. This guy is a huge playmaker, and he's an all-pro at the position. There aren't very many all-pros on the market, but the New York Jets can land one right here in Le'Veon Bell. He just turned 27 years old, and he should get an AAV around $15 million, and to me, that seems pretty fair. I know that he just sat out the year. There's a little risk to this, and paying running backs isn't usually something that I'm on board for, but this instance is so much different than any other. They could still pay Le'Veon Bell his $15 million and have the second most cap space in the league. It's insane. Them and the Colts have so much money that they don't even know what to do with it. So the Jets very much should be in the running there. Their backup plan should probably be Tevin Coleman from the Atlanta Falcons. He's 26 years old, just had over 800 rushing yards as he was the main guy with Devontae Freeman out last year. 4 touchdowns. He's good in open space, kind of like a rich man's Bilal Powell, but you would still need to have a good number 2 back there, or someone that he could tag team with and split carries. Tevin Coleman, again, is a pretty nice fallback plan, but if you're going to pay him $7 million, you might as well go all out and just pay the $15 million for Bell, who is the significantly better player. At the wide receiver position, the Jets have a ton of options, so I'll list off a few. Dante Moncrief is 26 years old. Golden Tate, a little bit older, 31. Danny Amendola, who does have a connection with Adam Gase, was with him in Miami last year. He's 33. And Cole Beasley, who's 30 years old. They don't really move the needle, each one of those guys. Yes, most of them will probably be in the slot, which I too would look to add a slot guy. I think Enunwa and Anderson on the outside are both perfectly fine. And my slot guy that I would go after, Adam Humphries. He's just 26 years old. He's the only free agent wide receiver to have more than 800 receiving yards last year. He had 5 touchdowns, and he has good size for a slot guy. He's progressively got better each of the last few years, especially the last 2. And adding him into the mix, yeah, he's not a cream of the crop wide receiver, but he is a very, very good slot receiver who doesn't get a lot of credit because he's playing in Tampa Bay as their slot guy. Ultimately, to me, I think Humphries is the best of that bunch. Moving on to the offensive line, the Jets actually just made a trade to get a guard, Kelechi Osemele, who is from the Oakland Raiders. He was very good in 2016, kind of a little bit of a step back in 17 and 18, but it'll be a day 3 pick. So that move seems to make a lot of sense to fill in their left guard position. It's an improvement over Carpenter. Maybe they replace Winters too, but I'm going to look at some other options outside of the guard position that they can look to address in free agency. The first guy on my list, Matt Paradise, who's 29 years old. He is a center. Then there's Trenton Brown from the Patriots. He's a left tackle, 26 years old. Now, Calvin Beachum obviously is still under contract, and he's just fine, but maybe you look to upgrade there. And Mitch Morse, who is the Kansas City Chiefs center, is 27. For me, I want to go center and get me some Matt Paradise, and then I will look for offensive line in the draft, whether it's in the first round or later to build depth. I think that's ultimately the move here. As for the tight end position, I do think you need to fill out the roster outside of Chris Herndon, and he does have injury history, so it's always good to have depth. You have guys like Tyler Eifert, Austin Seferian-Jenkins, Demetrius Harris, and Jesse James. I don't think you need to go for one of the bigger names like the first two guys. I would go with either Harris or James. I'll go on the cheaper side just because you have to save eventually and go Jesse James. Maybe give him like between $2 and $4 million per year. And that seems like a perfect number 2 receiver. He's number 2 tight end, rather. He is a good receiving tight end. Why not? I think that makes a lot of sense here. That'll do it for the offense, and now we move over into the defensive side of the ball and look at pass rusher, which is surely a position of need for the New York Jets. You have a few names on the pass rusher side. You have Justin Houston, who was just released by the Kansas City Chiefs, Ezekiel Ansah, who's a little older, he's 30 years old, Dante Fowler Jr., who is young at 25 years old. You have Shaq Barrett, 26, Preston Smith, and you also have Trey Flowers from the Patriots, who is 25 years old. To me, I'd be a little bit wary of paying some of the older guys like Houston or Ansah. Dante Fowler doesn't really move the needle for me either. I would really focus in on Trey Flowers. He had 7.5 sacks last year. He's coming from the New England Patriots, has had a ton of big plays in big games. He's a clutch guy too, especially come the playoffs. I know that shouldn't be the goal, is to get playoff caliber guys necessarily, but you have to improve this roster, and Trey Flowers to me seems like the best of that bunch. I would be willing to pay him the $15 million. Everyone else, I'm kind of questionable to give that $15 million worth. So give me Trey Flowers out of that group. Then moving on to the linebacker position, the Jets seem to be very interested in Anthony Barr. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler. He had 55 tackles last year and 3 sacks. He is the 26th ranked linebacker by Pro Football Focus. Do they really need a linebacker? Maybe not, depending on if he's going to play inside or outside. But Barr is an upgrade over Darren Lee and Avery Williamson. So maybe you do add linebacker depth. Maybe that is the move. For cornerback, you definitely have to address that because outside of Tremaine Johnson, who did not have a very good year, you're probably losing Buster Skrine and Morris Claiborne. So I'll give you 3 names that the Jets should be in on and looking at. Ronald Darby is number 1. He's 25 years old, coming off a season with the Eagles. You have Bradley Roby and Bryce Callahan. Callahan's more of a slot guy. I really like him a lot, but I think at the end of the day, he's going to get a little bit too expensive. And I'm going to put my money on Ronald Darby as being the guy. He's 25 years old, has had some injury history in the past, but ultimately at the end of the day, he seems to make sense and fit with this New York Jets scheme going forward. So to give you my predictions for this week, I think they're going to address 3 positions on the offensive side of the ball and 3 positions on the defensive side. I do think they land Le'Veon Bell. I think they are the most interested team. It would not surprise me if he went to the Colts, maybe Tampa Bay or Baltimore, but at the end of the day, that should be their number 1 target. I also think they land Adam Humphries, who is the best all-around receiver of that group. The others have their flaws, whether it be age or just lack of production the last couple of years. And then lastly, I think they get Paradise to play center. So those are my 3 guesses for the offensive side. And on the defensive side, I'm going to go with Trey Flowers as the pass rusher. I think, yes, they have shown signs to like Dante Fowler Jr. They almost traded for him last year. But Trey Flowers is a safe bet, the best pass rusher on the market, if you ask me. I think they get Barr to play linebacker. They've just seemed very interested in him. I don't know if it's necessarily the biggest need, but they seem very in on him, so I'll predict him too. And I'm going to go Ronald Darby to play cornerback. A little bit of a risk with his injuries, but at the end of the day, he is a very talented corner. So that's my free agency predictions and preview. Again, get at me at the comments below if you agree with me or who you would like to see the Jets target. Hopefully the Jets are very active because this is a huge offseason for them, and we will see what happens in free agency and then how that ultimately leads up to what the Jets do in the draft. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys next time.